Hello, everyone. My name is Tatiana. I am the founder and owner of a company called Gastro Tours, a wine and food travel company slash guide. We've been working since 2012, but now, of course, as many others, our travel has been suspended indefinitely. And because of that, we'd like to still connect with everybody and connect with also our partners across the globe and just show them we're still here and we still care and that we still want to travel. We can't wait to go out and travel. We are yearning for it. So in the meantime, though, as we're doing the right thing by staying home, we're going to feature a vineyard tour traveling to Provence. We're going to have this tour today with a wonderful woman named Audrey. She is going to walk us through this amazing vineyard. Without further ado, I am going to present you to our lovely, lovely Audrey. Hello, Audrey. How are you?
I'm fine.
Of course you're fine. Look at where you are.
That's a paradise castle near Aix-en-Provence with wonderful weather. So yeah, we are quite lucky here.
Yeah, it looks great. What a beautiful day, right?
Yeah, definitely. We have sun since a few days. We had quite a good weather during the two last months, but last week it was raining. And but yeah, sun is back, so we are so happy now.
Well, it looks amazing. It looks very green too, so I'm sure the rain helped a little bit, right?
Yeah, definitely. We had
Lovely.
rain during spring. We had a bit of rain, which is quite helpful for us because we are in a dry region, and rain and during spring is really it helps a lot for grapes. Yeah,
for sure, especially because it gets so warm over there, right? So
yeah, definitely during summer it can be over 35, 40 degrees Celsius. So
wow.
quite hot and dry.
Yes. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us and helping us to make this happen today. I'm so very excited and I can't wait to kick this tour off. So if you want, tell us a little bit about, who you are, what you do. Is this your chateau or do you, do all of these kinds of other visits to other chateaus? Tell us a little bit about you.
Okay. In fact, it's not my chateau. I'm the owner and creator of Vineyard, which is a travel company, wine tourism company. Before doing that, I worked in human resources for 13 years. But I wanted to change my job life because I was not in phase with my values, and nearly 40, I wanted to, enjoy my time working. And so after a little break of 4 months in French Polynesia, I discovered the job of guide, and it was just amazing. And when we came back in France, I said, okay, I love wine, I love people. I'm from Provence, so being a wine guide in Provence makes sense. And I have created my own company of wine tours in Provence. And so today I'm very happy to do what I do and to make discover people who come to visit us, all our beautiful Provence with all its diversity. So I'm based in Aix-en-Provence, and my playground goes through Bandol, Cassis, Les Alpilles, Côte de Provence, Sainte-Victoire, Côte d'Aix, where we are today, and until Châteauneuf-du-Pape with his wonderful red.
That's great. So if you want, can you elaborate a little bit about Provence wine region, right? Like, I think a lot of us who drink wine and who love rosé, of course, know Provence a good amount. But really, what is it about Provence that makes this such a special wine region, and special for rosé, but special also, I know, for reds and other whites? What is it? What's so special about it?
Yeah, that's true. Provence, when we think Provence, we think about rosé, of course, but we produce also good red and white. Why is so special? First, in France, Provence was the first region to have planted vines. It was 600 years before Christ, so about 2,000 years from now, when the Greeks, the Phocéans, arrived in Marseille. They arrived with vines, with olive trees, with almond trees, and they thought it was the best place to plant cultures and vines. And why did they thought that? They thought that because we have sun, we have a lot of sun all year long. We have about 300 days of sun each year. So it helps a lot to growing grapes, of course. Also, we are a windy region. The wind is very helpful to protect the vines naturally against the disease bound to the humidity and all that things. So you can imagine that 2,000 years ago, they didn't have all the techniques we have today. And so it was important to have a natural environment to protect vines and to don't have fungus and all that thing. And the third reason is because of our soils. So I don't know if you can see it, but our soils here, yeah, maybe I flip the up. How I can do that? Yeah, it's live. Yeah. So as you can see, we have a soil of clay and limestone. Limestone is very helpful because it drains water. So when it's raining, the water is not stocked on the surface, but goes very deep under the soil, underground, and the roots need to go deep into the soil to find water, and that makes them stronger. So for these three reasons, the Greeks planted vines. We were the first region in France to have vines. So long history about wine in that region.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, for sure, it's definitely one of the oldest wine regions, right? A lot of people think of rosé from Provence being like the new thing, and it's actually been around quite a long time. And if I'm not mistaken, the first wines were actually pink, right? They were not red, they were not white.
No,
they were pink.
yeah, it was probably red. We don't exactly know, but yeah, probably red at the beginning. In the documents that we can have for the history, it was red in amphoras. Roman came after about 21 before Christ. They arrived. They built a lot of things in France, and they have planted vines everywhere in France. And for us with terracottas, we have some vestige of that, so we can say that we are still building the history, rebuilding the history to exactly know how it was at this time. Yeah, step by step.
Yeah, for sure. And tell us about the vineyards behind you because they look amazing. They look so green. What are these vines? What grapes do those vines grow?
I'm in a plot of Syrah. So we are in Château Paradis. So Château Paradis, Paradise Castle in English. We are situated in the north of Aix-en-Provence, between two mountains, between the Luberon Mountains that you can see at the back, just here. And on the other side, you have the Sainte-Victoire Mountain, the famous mountain of the painter Cézanne, that we don't see it because we have a little hill in between us. And these two mountains protect the valley where we are today. So it's quite helpful for the rain and for the wind, and you don't have too much disturbance of weather. But maybe I can show you a map to it will be easier for you to understand. So here we have a map of Paradise Castle. So in that castle, so we are here with the plots, and you can see the Luberon here, and the Sainte-Victoire on the other side. So, and we can see also the Canal de Provence here. Canal de Provence is a branch of a river called Durance, which is a natural river. But the Canal de Provence was built at the end of the 19th century to bring water to Marseille, the main town in Provence. And it's quite important to have that, because it brings a bit of humidity and reflection of light, which is helpful. But maybe I will explain you that a little bit later when we go back to the vines. And the Chateau Paradis, we can find even today some terracotta vestige from the Roman time. So in fact, that estate have always had vines on the ground. Roman were there where they built the Villa Regina, and it evaluates, but vines were always there. Today it's owned by a Provençal family since 2011, and they have decided to make it beautiful and welcoming for people. So they organize different things around wine along the year, and welcome people to share an experience with them here. So yeah, it's an estate of 80 hectares. So it's a medium estate for our region, and they grow the classic grapes that we can find in Provence. So we have a Syrah here where we are, and at that time it's the time where we have baby grapes. So I show you the baby grapes, yeah, just here, you see that. So grapes are growing. As you can see, it's quite green, and yeah, sorry, I speak maybe a lot.
Never. It's perfect.
Just catch me when it's too much.
We want to see these beautiful vineyards, and they look beautiful. I mean, they really look like they're flourishing and they're vigorous. So
yeah, and you can see at the back a classic Bastide of Provence, which is the house of the owner. So I don't know if you see that.
yeah, for sure. And I love the trees, the typical kind of like long, what are they, like evergreens?
Cypress,
yeah,
the cypress.
So beautiful. They're so typical of Provence.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell us a little more about the vineyard. Is it a family-owned vineyard? Are they, how long have they been around? Is it generational? Is it pretty modern? Yeah, if you can just tell us a little more about the winery.
So it's quite modern. They use a lot of techniques to make Provence wine. First, maybe I can speak to you about the rosé, specifically about the rosé and all the techniques we need to make rosé. So I speak about the Syrah, but they grow also other grapes like Cabernet, Grenache, Cinsault, Sauvignon Blanc, Grenache Blanc, Mourvèdre, Uni Blanc, Vermentino, which we called Rolle in Provence. It's an Italian grapes, Vermentino, but its name in Provence is Rolle. And so it's the typical grapes of Provence. And why? Because in fact, in France, we have an appellation system, an AOP system, with rules in each AOP. So each AOP has its own rules to make wine, and sorry, it's difficult to speak without people around me. So
I know it's challenging. Just
yeah,
pretend we're all
definitely.
here, we're all watching.
Thank you. So yeah, and part of the rules are the list of grapes that we can use, and you have the main grapes, the secondary grapes, and you need to blend your grapes to make AOP wine in Provence, in Côte d'Aix-en-Provence. Côte d'Aix-en-Provence is the name of the appellation where we are today. So they grow these grapes to have the AOP. You have three categories of wine in Provence, in France. You have the AOP, you have the IGP. IGP is indication geographical protected, and Vin de France French wine, which is more the table wine. And
so you said that the region, to interrupt you real quickly, you said that they also make red wine and white wine, correct? Does
yes,
Chateau Paradis
absolutely.
also?
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
Wow.
The three colors, and they need to blend grapes for each of the three colors. And so yeah, in fact, they produce more rosé because we are the rosé region, but also red and white, with two ranges of wine: the traditional wine and the prestigious wine that you can find, in fact, in New York, I think, because they export to US. So maybe if you look for Chateau Paradis in New York, you can enjoy the wine of Chateau Paradis at home.
Lovely.
So yeah, they are quite modern and produce rosé. So to produce rosé, in fact, it's the more difficult wine to make because so the region is very hot, as you can see and as you know probably, very warm, especially during summer. So these grapes are used because they have been chosen by the AOP because they are resistant to dryness and they have a late maturity, so they enjoy the sun and they need sun to grow. So this is logical choice to make the AOP.
So are you allowed in the area to use irrigation? Because you said it's very dry, right?
That's a very good question. In fact, you are not allowed to irrigate as you want. So some appellation can irrigate, but only with authorization. So the government give an authorization with dates to respect and a certain amount of water to respect, and only when they estimate that the vines are suffering enough. So last year we had a very dry and hot summer, so they could irrigate. We can see the lines here. You have different techniques to irrigate vines. One of them is this kind of pipes. It's like a drop pipes. Here you can see that. And at each foot of vines, you have a drop during
irrigation.
Night. Yeah, irrigation to grow grapes.
So they're just little tiny droplets. It's not like they're, hosing down gardens, right?
You can have both. You can have both different techniques. What I found very interesting and passionate, today we are in Chateau Paradis, so I explained the technique they use here. But what is passionate for me is that each vineyard, each winemaker make his own choice at each stage of the winemaking process. And you have a diversity of wine, even inside the rules, which are very strict because you have the rules to plant vines, you have the rules what kind of vines, the density, the blend, the winemaking process. At each stage you have rules, but inside these rules, each winemaker make his own choice to have its own identity, its own signature, even in his own vineyard. And it's like magic. In fact, it's like perfume. I compare quite often wine and perfume because with just some ingredients, you can make different recipes. and the identity and the signature and the way to cultivate, the philosophy of the vineyard is in the vine, and so you can have a large diversity. In France, we don't drink a grape variety. I know that in US you drink a Grenache, you drink a Syrah, you drink a Cab or whatever. Here we don't do that because the soils that we have in France are so diverse, and it depends of where you plant the vines. Even if it's the same grape, you obtain different things. So if you plant a Grenache in a sandy soil or in a limestone soil or in a clay soil, it will be different. It will be different at each time, and the grape tastes different. So even for the blend, even when they have different plots of Grenache, they can blend the plots between them because they don't have the same age, they don't have the same soil, and they don't taste the same. So they try to find a balance between all that to have their perfect wine of the year. And every year it's different depending of how the vines have produced, depends of the weather we had, depends of many different criteria, and every year is different. So it's quite exciting every year to know to wait for the new taste of the new cuvee, the new millésime. So yeah, I found that very exciting.
I think it's so interesting, especially for anybody learning about wine, to know how different grapes can react, right? According to where they're grown, their soil, the climate, I mean, everything, right? So people don't realize that when they're just tasting the wine, and everything doesn't taste the same, right? They're all different. Even if they're the same grape, if they're from a different place, they're going to taste totally different.
Yeah, from different region, and yeah.
So is the house of the winery's house, or the wine owner, the vineyard owner's home is behind you, and the winery, is that in there too, or is that somewhere else?
The winery is just there, so we can have a look if you want.
Perfect. So, lovely. Yes, please. I will.
And today we have a surprise because it was not organized like this, but as you can see behind me, there's a bottling chain. So they ask for a truck to come to bottle their wine. So they plug the pipe of wine to this truck, and at the end you have boxes ready to go, maybe to US. And
so this is amazing because I don't think a lot of people know. A lot of people think that, you bottle your wine in your own estate, in your domain, but a lot of people source bottling from companies who literally come, and it's such a great truck. It looks like a food truck. And and they just start bottling there for you right on site. And that's such a great way to cut costs, right? To avoid those really intensive costs of having a whole bottling, equipment, having to clean it, having to maintain it. So
yeah, exactly. In fact, it costs a lot to have that kind of chain, your own chain. So only the bigger domain, the bigger vineyards have their own bottling chain. But in Provence, we don't have a lot of big vineyard and estates. So most of them use trucks to bottle the wine. And we enter now in the cellar where the magic is going on.
The other magic, right?
Oops, sorry. Yeah, the other magic. So here we use a lot of stainless steel tank like this because we need fresh wine. So when it's harvest time in September, harvest is made most of the time by night with trucks. It's a mechanic harvest and not hand harvest, because hand picking for rosé and white. For red it's a bit different, or for some prestigious white it's a bit different, but most of the time it's a mechanic harvest and by night. So they start at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, very early in the morning, because it's very hot very warm, and grapes need to keep their freshness, because what we expect in a wine of Provence is that freshness, that lightness, fruity wine, and acidity and all that. So they pick the grapes by night, and they use, we don't see today because it's not harvest time, so the machine is in his box, but they use a big press. So put the grapes inside the press. They destem or they don't destem, depend of again, it's a choice of the winemaker. Most of the time it's destem, and they press directly the grapes. It's a 2 or 3 hours process, so it's very, very quick. In fact, and all year of work is played in 2 or 3 hours.
Amazing.
And that's why it's, because what we expect in a Provence rosé, it's a light color and a lot of aromas. But the problem is that aromas and color are both in the skin. So you need to extract a lot of, sorry, I have my arm is hurting me.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I think that's incredible, because a lot of people really, I know when I started studying wine, one of the most incredible things was the skin. So what about the juice? The juice has like the acidity and all that stuff, but really all those aromas and those flavors that we find come from the skin. So if you're pressing the wine, it's super challenging to get those aromas into the wine, right?
Exactly. So the pulp, in fact, produces the juice, and we need it to have juice, to have volume. But the aromas and the tannins are from the skin. So you need to use techniques to extract all the best from the grapes without extracting too much color, because the fashion at the moment is clear rosé, to have very pale rosé from Provence. So they use a special machine for that. And then they use this stainless steel tank. For white and rosé, it's quite the same process, in fact. And the stainless steel tanks are very useful, because you can see that belt with the holes. It's a thermoregulation tank. And so in that belt, you have water to control the temperature during the fermentation. When the grapes are fermenting, they produce gas and heat. But to keep the freshness from Rosé of Provence, you need to keep a low temperature. And so winemaker every day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, they control the temperature of the fermentation. Because depending of the temperature, you will extract different tastes from the grapes again. So it's another choice from the winemaker. Depends of the temperature you ferment your wine, your grapes, you will extract different flavors. It can be exotic fruits, it can be more strawberry, it can be more on the fruit itself, on the grape itself, or it can be more candies. So depends of the temperature, you are going to make a different wine. And so this techniques is very, very useful for that, to help to make the best rosé and the best white also. And another particularity from the rosé is that we don't have residual sugar. So all the sugar from the grapes is eaten by the yeast. So the yeast, the fermentation process is when the yeast eat the sugar and transform it in alcohol. The yeast need to have eaten all the sugar, all the residual sugar. So no residual sugar into the grapes, into the wine at the end. It's not authorized, it's not allowed to have residual sugar. And that's why we have also that freshness, that's balance.
Yeah, so all of the wines, in essence, when they're fermented completely dry. There's no sweet wines. This winery doesn't make any sweet wines, right?
We don't make sweet wine in Provence. It's very
Nothing
rare.
in Provence. Okay.
Yeah, it's very rare. You can find some wineries that make a very confidential production of sweet wine, but it's more to play and to experiment different things. So because they love that, and also because they are lover of traditional 13 desserts for Christmas, because we have a tradition in Provence with the 13 Christmas desserts, and one of them, the desserts are eaten with a sweet wine. So
if you made a sweet wine in that area, you couldn't label it under Provence, correct?
yeah, that's correct.
Okay, cool. Good to know. Good to know. So tell us, as far as the winemaking, how many bottles of wine does this producer make?
200,000 a year, about. Yeah, depends of the year, of course, depends of the production, depends of the weather, depends of all that, but it's about 200,000 every year.
And the majority is Provence, or is
the majority is Provence? Yeah, majority. In fact, Provence.
Rosé. That's what I said.
Yeah, rosé. Yeah,
Rosé,
and majority is in the appellation Coteaux d'Aix-en-Provence, where we are today. So an appellation, you need to know, an appellation is also a geographical zone defined, and in Provence we have about 10 different appellations.
Wow. So do they source out any grapes, or is it all the grapes that they grow, only their grapes?
Yeah, only their grapes. Before, in the past, in the history of the winery, maybe 50 years ago, I think, they sold their wine in a big tank and not in bottle, like many wineries in the region. In fact, they have turned in the bottle market, if I can say, about 30, 40, 50 years ago. But Rosé of Provence was different. The market of Rosé was very different than what it is today. So about 20 years ago, it has turned, and there's an association of Provence wines, which made a big work, big challenge of marketing the rosé. And the rosé, also, we have to say that the rosé that we drink today is absolutely nothing in common than the rosé we drank 30 or 40 years ago. It's more elegant, more fine, more complex, more prestigious wine that you can drink. Of course, you can drink it all day, like the rosé all day party that you have in New York, but also you can have a very good rosé with a gastronomic lunch or gastronomic dinner, with fish, with salad, with sushi, Asian food, that kind of thing. So the quality of rosé and the quality of the techniques that we have today have increased the level of rosé, and today the wine is very different, and the market has worked for that. And so today Rosé of Provence are very famous and export everywhere in the world.
Yeah, I think Provence rosé, to me, I mean, I've worked with a lot of French people, and I've learned to drink Provence not only Provence rosé, not only in the summertime, but in the wintertime.
Absolutely.
Because it is a super complex wine. I mean, really, it does outshine a lot of wines, and it definitely has the complexity of a red wine, of a white wine. I mean, it can really stand up to not just sitting in a beach or in the park and drinking it, right? I mean, even though that's wonderful, but you can have it at meals, you can have it in celebrations. I mean, it is really
Absolutely.
A very versatile wine. So, So what about aging purposes? Does rosé in Provence undergo any type of aging, any type of barrel aging? Does the red wines undergo any barrel aging, or the white ones?
Rosé is not aged in barrels generally. It can happen, but again, it's very a small proportion of the rosé produced in Provence. But yeah, for white and red, we haven't spoken about the winemaking process for red, but maybe in another life, or if you come to Provence to visit us. But yes, I can show you the barrel room where they age the white and the red. So I'm just going to go downstairs and try to don't fall down in live, yeah? So they are making some renovation in the cellar room, but I try to show you the big food, which are this kind of barrels.
Wow.
Let's see this
They're
way.
huge.
Yeah, up. I'm going to turn the camera on the other side. Up. Yeah.
Lovely.
So yeah, this kind of barrels are called foudres in French. As you can see, they are quite big. They are 48 hectoliter, so it's quite a big barrel. In that estate, in that vineyard, they use 3 size of barrels, and depends of the size, depends of the wood. Here they use only French oak to age the wine, but depends of the size, depends of the wood, depends of the age of the wood, and depends of how the wood was burned. It's going to have an impact on the final taste. So you have many options to obtain the wine you want to obtain at the end. And depends of the grapes you age also. Some grapes are better in little barrels this size, some others are better here, because the wine is more or less in contact with the wood, and the wood brings tannins, brings roundity, but they can also bring some wood notes like vanilla, honey, toasty notes, that kind of things. So
and there are red wines in there right now?
Yeah, at the top you can see there's like a hat where you can see the level of wine. It's very important to have that that kind of tool to see the level of wine, because the wood is breathing. So you have natural evaporation of wine in the air that we call angel share. And the angels are love to drink, so they drink a lot, and there's a lot of evaporation in the barrels. So they need to fulfill in regularly the barrels, because if the wine at this stage is in contact with oxygen, it can turn vinegar, which is not a good idea. So so yes, you have here you have the Presse Rouge AOP from the last harvest, and here it's a Cabernet from the plot called Pommier, and from the last harvest also. So we haven't spoken about the blend, but as you can see here, they age only Cabernet, and this Cabernet is going to be blended with other grapes, aged maybe not in barrels, but only in stainless steel or in concrete tanks, to don't bring too much tannins or too much toasty notes, but just a little bit, to can keep the wine maybe 5 or 8 years, and give a little bit of complexity, but not like the Bordeaux style. Or, you know, in Bordeaux, you have a lot of tannins to keep wine very long, and you have these toasty notes all the time. So in Provence, it's not the style, but just to have enough tannins and enough complexity, they can age one grape and then blend it with other grapes, not age in barrels.
So they age separately, correct? They age each grape separately.
They can do both.
Okay. Yeah.
It depends, can be aged separately. Right? Yeah, again, it depends. It depends of their choice, what they want to obtain. So yeah, this is yeah, again, one of the options they have along the winemaking process.
Wow, that is amazing. Do you know how many bottles of wine are in both of those tanks? Do you know how many bottles they could extract from there?
So 48 hectoliter, it will be about six, if mathematic tests in life. So it's about 6,000 bottles, I think, or maybe 60,000, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's a lot of wine in there.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's
So,
just
yeah.
that's just the reds, right? That's the only reds
That's
that they're
just
going
the
to be
red.
producing?
Here you have Syrah, just here. I'll
Uh-huh.
try to show you. In this one, you have
Uh-huh.
Syrah, and in other barrels, but they are not here because they try to make some renovation, so the wineries doesn't look like usually.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can age also. You can age also white. Uh, less longer, because red are aged between 12 or 18 months. For white is around 6 months. Yeah. And only for the prestigious cuvée. The white from the tradition is on the fruit, is a light, expressive, like an explosion of aromas in your mouth. The prestigious cuvée has a blend with one of the grape aged in barrels to give more complexity, to be kept longer. And also there's, we have been very quick on the winemaking process, but there's another stage in the fermentation process that we call malolactic fermentation, which is after the alcohol fermentation. And the malolactic fermentation gives more roundity, sweetness, smoothness to the wine. It's when the yeast eat the sugar, they die and they fall on the bottom of the tank. And the fine lies are kept, and the wine is aged on these fine lies, which give the roundity and the complexity of the wine. So for the prestigious cuvée, you can keep the wine a little bit on these fine lies to give more complexity and elegance to your wine.
Amazing. So now, I mean, you've been talking about this delicious fruit and the acidity, and it's like my mouth is watering. Are you going to be tasting any of these wines with us? Are you going to be showing us some of the wines you're going to be tasting?
Oh,
I'd love
sure,
to.
we
I'd love
can
to
go.
talk about about how they taste, especially you were talking about the reds, being able to age a little bit longer. I think also, I mean, I know this is not something common, right? But I know that I've had, rosés that are not like the current release or the current vintage, and they taste wonderful. And so I wanted to know, as a Provence locale, as a person who's from Provence, and I'm sure drinks a lot of Provence wine, what is the canon, or what is like the aging of all of these wines? What is the aging process, or how long can
Well, for rosé, most of the rosé need to be drunk in the year after the harvest, or maybe 2 years, but not that much, not more. After, it's quite, it can happen, but it's rare. So for white, it depends if you had an aging or not, but white, this white, for example, Terre des Anges, which is the prestigious cuvée, can be kept about 5 years. And the red, the Terre des Anges red, which is the prestigious red from this estate, can be kept about 8-10 years. Yeah, so not that long, because as we don't age too long the wine in barrels, why we can keep a wine or not? In fact, when you can keep a wine is when you have, just put my phone here, so my arm is better. Yeah, the tannins preserve the wine. And so more you have tannins, more you can keep the wine longer. So that's why in Burgundy or in Bordeaux, you can keep your wine much longer than the Provence wine, because they are aged automatically in barrels and they have a lot of tannins. So they taste different, but you can keep them longer. and they continue to evaluate in the bottle. So if you drink the wine at 5 years, 10 years, or 15 or 20 years, you won't have the same wine. In Provence, it's the same, but for rosé, we don't age most of the time. And yeah, for white, you can have more buttery notes. If you had a malolactic fermentation, you can have, when the evaluation is going on in the bottles, you have more yeah, honey and butter in your
mushroom, right?
Yeah. Mushroom is more in the red.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously wouldn't probably age this for like 20 years, or like you would some wonderful chateau in Bordeaux or something like that. But I know that as far as the market goes, right, a lot of people look for, you know, the vintage, the current vintage for rosé, right, to drink it as fresh as possible. But I do think that if it has a little bit of time, depending on how, you know, good quality the rosé is, maybe like a year, 2 years, it's really very nice. It really shows a little more complexity, a little more, you know, you get a little more of those earthy notes that are really lovely without, you know, compromising the fruit or any of that. So you know,
it depends also about the grapes you use. For example, in the prestigious rosé that we have here, sorry. Yeah, in this rosé, in the Terre des Anges rosé, you have some Mourvèdre. Mourvèdre, it's a grape variety with a lot of natural tannins in the skin. And so this, by using this grape, you can keep your rosé 2 or 3 years maybe, because the tannins protect the wine. So, but if you use grapes without too much tannins, like Cinsault, for example, or Grenache, you have more fruit notes, aromas, but less tannins. So, yeah, again, depends on the blend.
So what do these wines taste like? I think that is the question, right?
This is the question. This is the best part of the visiting.
Exactly, right? The cherry on the top. What do these taste like? You talked a lot about different kinds of fruits, but I'd love to know, you know, what it is exactly that these particular wines that this chateau is making taste like, and you can explain that to us.
Yeah, so in fact, you have, as I said, two cuvées, two range of wine. So you have the traditional wine in that kind of bottles. The shape of the bottle, we don't have rules about that in Provence. So this shape is more Bordeaux shape, a classic Bordeaux shape. And this one is more like a Burgundy shape. But here, it's just a choice for marketing and packaging, so two ranges of wine within the three colors. So how does it taste? So do you want to taste?
Please, yes.
So let's start by the white. So we're not going to taste the 6 because otherwise will be a bit long. But yeah, we can taste this Terre des Anges white from 2018.
And what are the grapes in this wine?
So it's Sauvignon Blanc and Vermentino.
Nice.
So Sauvignon Blanc and Vermentino. Vermentino is the rose. So yeah, you can see the color of the you see it. Yeah, it's not so quite clear with it's on yellow, a little bit of green, so it's quite young. 2018 is still young. It can be kept a little bit, and with fruity notes, and you can smell pear and apple, a little bit of apricot. It's the taste of the wine. I don't want to be pretentious about that, because in fact it's very personal, and we are not equipped the same. Each of us is different, and we don't have the same detectors of aromas. So even for professional taster, they don't find exactly the same aromas in the wine. So it's very personal. And in fact, the most important thing is just to enjoy your glass of wine when you drink it. Some grapes give classic flavors, but after it's more a personal taste. And we can't say this wine is good or this wine is not good. You can like it or not like it, but it depends of your taste, yeah. And a wine can be very good, very well done, but you don't like it because it's not your taste and you don't like that kind of taste, you know. So
Yes,
yeah.
I completely agree. Yeah, for sure. So living in New York, we rarely see white wines from Provence, right? Usually it is, and even reds, they're usually rosés. And I know that the production in Provence is really, really tiny as far as white. But do you think that's going to change? Do you think they're going to start focusing more on white, or is kind of like the main goal to stay with rosé, and then these kind of wines are more maybe sold locally? I don't know. What is your take on that?
Last year we spoke about that a lot because white was increasing. White market was increasing a lot. So, and white from Provence are better and better. And in fact, I organized some tasting class just to discover wine and enjoy your time by that, introducing you to tasting. And I do a game at the end, and it's a blind taste, and you need to recognize one of the wine you have tasted during the class, during the introduction. And I challenge my clients on that to recognize the white from the rosé. And most of the time, people are wrong. Well, don't give the good answer because it's quite close, in fact. Because we have freshness, we have that acidity in the wine that we are looking for in Provence. And so they are quite close. So the market of white, yes, is increasing. Rosé of Provence will stay Rosé of Provence, definitely. But the white market is increasing, you're right.
So what does this white wine taste like? It looks very herbaceous to me from the look of it. It looks really nice and bright in acidity and refreshing.
Yeah.
Is it fruity? Is it?
It's very fruity.
Nice. Oh, it looks so good. And you're with that little tank top. It just looks like it's perfect for the weather.
I can put my sunglasses on.
It's even better.
So yeah, it's very fruity with a good acidity, long mouth. You can still have the aromas after you drink it. So yeah, it has been awarded by wine enthusiasts with 90, a mark of 90 on 100. So which it's good mark. Nice. Yeah, so you can pair that with scallops, with white meat, with fish. As you have a little bit of honey notes, because it was aged on fine lies. What I wanted to say, with the creamy fish, fish with a little bit of cream can be very good also. Yeah.
That looks amazing, and I really want to I want to go out now. I want to buy a white bottle of Provence.
Join me.
Get some creamy fish and pair it with my wine. So yeah. I think we're gonna take some. Or at least I know I saw one question here.
Yeah.
If you want to taste the rosé as well, I'd love to know about that.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah, I can do it. I'm the lab rat. No problem. So I think we had a question here from I believe it was Casey who said, when will visitors be able to visit Provence again? Wow, that's the golden $1 million question.
Yeah, exactly.
When can we go?
I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't know. I would like to know, but
Yeah.
I hope as soon as possible. But
yeah, but
for the moment, we don't know.
Right. So now are you able to visit wineries, or are the wineries open for visits?
Yes.
Okay.
Wineries are open with all the respectful sanitary and everything, so it's very safe. I don't take more than 4 people in my van to respect the distance. We have masks to give to our clients. We have a hydroalcoholic gel solution. Yeah. So we are equipped. Wineries are open, so it's possible in safe conditions. So
I guess it's just a matter of time, right? Before
exactly, yeah.
like this whole thing, it's a matter of time. So have you had any visitors lately since this whole thing happened? None, right? Yeah. I mean, who's there? Who's gonna go visit? Locals?
Yeah, locals, maybe locals, but they do most of the time by themselves. Yeah, on their own, even if they don't automatically go to family wineries, which are quite hidden and secret wineries where we can go with a wine guide, but not on our own. So yeah, it's another. Yeah, I try to organize parties in vines for this summer, or escape game in the vines, or that kind of things for locals to work on another market, which is not my market usually, because I work a lot with people from US during summer, and also with companies for team building and seminars. But yeah, again, it's too early to know. We should know at the end of May how many people we are allowed to have in the same room. So for the moment, it's 10 maximum. But yeah, for events, we will know at the end of May. So yeah, wait and see.
As long as we're all healthy and safe to do it, then of course, let's do it, right? That's the important thing.
Yeah.
And we had one last question here from Brian, who I believe you know very well. At least he knows you, Brian Loader. So he asks, what is the difference? He's noticed that there's a difference that in the bottles that you've opened, that there are mostly caps or just tops, and that what is the difference with corks, and why? I mean, I don't know if those wines, do they have corks or?
Alors, so it depends. For cork, they use cork for the most prestigious cuvée, prestigious wine that can be kept longer, 8 to 10 years, to make the wine breathe a little bit by the cork. But for the rosé, in this winery, they use a special cork. Just to show you here, they use a glass cork. You see that?
I saw it. Yes, I love that.
So it's it's a very nice souvenir to bring back.
You can keep it and reuse it, right? Recycle.
And you can absolutely, you can easily rebottle your wine with it. So, and it's a nice souvenir. So in general, for rosé and white that need to be drank in the 2 years coming, you don't need to use cork. In fact, we don't use the how do you say
screw cap?
Yeah, we don't use that in France, because for the moment, even if it's technically it's very good. And I know that in Australia they use a lot that, in America too, but here we are more traditional, and the process when you drink a wine is really the 5 senses, and one of them is the hear. And I love personally to hear when you open a bottle, you say, yeah, let's go for a party. So yeah,
pop the cork, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's part of the
the fun.
of the fun. Yeah, exactly.
For sure. Just like you said, I mean, drinking wine is all about the senses, right? And
Yeah,
it's all not only about the wine itself, right? It's also about where you are, the
with who you
weather,
are,
with who
with
you are,
yeah, your
your
mood,
mood. Yeah.
it's again, it's like a perfume, depends of the weather. You want more fresh perfume or more complex perfume, more heavy. Depends of your mood. You want some flowers or you want more some, different things. Yeah, or no perfume. So it's I like this comparison.
So how's the rosé? It looks
Oh, I
beautiful
haven't tasted. I
color.
speak. I speak.
So much to talk about.
Ah, so that's the new rosé from the last harvest. So it's quite complex. Yeah, so it's a blend with Grenache, Cinsault, Syrah, and Mourvèdre. So we have, we definitely have red fruits like strawberry, a bit of acidity with, it's a bit acid and in the meantime fruity. So we can feel the acidity here, which is good and refreshing.
Mouth watering, right?
But
Salivating
and red fruits, strawberry, raspberry.
lovely.
Yeah, it's quite very good.
So I wanted to thank you so much for this wonderful walk around tour. I had an amazing time. I really, really felt for a minute I was not stuck at home and I was in beautiful Provence. I mean, I think I want to own a chateau just for if this ever should happen again. I'll be stuck there and that's okay. So also on that note, I do want to tell everyone and whoever watches this later on that we do have a wonderful tour that we worked really hard to get and put together, that took us several weeks of back and forth to finally put it together. And of course we have it set up for September, but I'm not sure if that's being realistically right, if that's going to happen. But we are going to do this tour. Not September, but maybe next year for sure. And you will be the guide, and
definitely
you will take us to some wonderful, really local places, which we really want to focus on, right? Like the more local, family-owned, small little places that really need to know the people to know where to go, right? So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that will be wonderful. And thank you very much for this experience.
It was really
very fun for me too. And thank you, because I wanted to come back to Vine, so it was a good occasion, good opportunity to come back. Yeah.
I hope you felt a little reminiscent, right? Like that you could go back to doing what you were doing. So
absolutely.
So enjoy the rest of those wines and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much, Tatiana.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye-bye. Take care. See you.